Having firmly established ourselves as knitters of the most pleasing hat of December, we are now going to add a body. So we got knitting needles, we've got color 2, and we have our hat. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to flip this inside out, and you're going to see that I really don't cut my ends, they're just extra stuffing. We put in a beginning of round marker on this stitch when we were knitting the hat. Basically, it's going to line us up so that we're starting across from the hat. It's not perfectly halfway. That is not absolutely key. The way the increases are distributed here is not absolutely key in terms of like lining up dead center. So breathe a sigh of relief and just enjoy the relaxing December gnome. Flipping up this brim means that we can pick up stitches and then knit on in a way that kind of gets these out of the way. And these are just going to roll all over today. We're going to stick you in there. So we've got our stitch about there. All right. So, and I can even see my stitch marker glowing through a little bit there. Now, there are a couple of options here, and there's not really a wrong way, and if you get off a little bit, just don't sweat it, because really if you're here or here, it's not going to make a huge difference at the end of the round when we're done picking up. So I use the phrase caps and smiles, and so the cap is the part of a stitch that's kind of going up and over, and the smile is the part that's going down and up like a smile. So you have two choices. One is technically the last round of the ribbing rather than the round above, but you could use this transition from the line of what is presenting as a knit stitch here and grab that, and then the one in between, and then grab the next one and the one in between, and then the next one on top of that column, and that's a great way to do it. Another option is to go one above that and then just pick up all along there with the smiles. So that would be this one, and then this. Doesn't want to go, isn't that funny? There we go. And then there, and then there, and then we are in the row above the ribbing. It's up to you. Do whichever one makes it easier for you to see, depending on how dark your yarn is or what's going on. It'll make it easier for you or harder. So just follow the method that makes sense. I do recommend picking up the stitches before you knit them. Don't do both in one fell swoop. I think it's a lot easier to just stay in the groove of whatever it is you're doing if you don't have to introduce the yarn and all of that into it. All right. If you are knitting on DPNs, you may have 3 or 4 stitches or 3 or 4 needles. If you're knitting on magic loop or the 2 circs method, you will have obviously the needles that apply to that. One thing is that it's a good time to make sure that you count the number of stitches you have, and if you do not have the correct number of stitches, don't sweat it if it's 1 or 2 off. Just either knit 2 together or create an extra stitch. Like, do not redo this whole thing, just fudge it if it's just a stitch or 2. The second thing that I want to point out is if you are a DPN knitter, it is possible to accidentally start knitting on the wrong side. This only seems to come up with DPNs, but I mean, it's possible that Magic Loop would also do it. But when you join when you join your yarn to work in the round and you're getting ready, it is possible to look at your knitting and accidentally knit on the back side of the circle. So if you were to pick this up and join the yarn here, you could knit across this needle. But you see how the inside of the hat is facing me on this part? That means that I will be producing reverse stockinette on the outside of the gnome. So it's important when you start knitting, when you look at the needle you're about to grab, we want it to be in line with the beginning of round marker that we placed when we started that hat, or when we finished the hat basically. We want it to be in line with that, so that'll be the needle we want to start with. And we want to make sure that facing us, hanging off of this needle, is stockinette fabric, or whatever the outside of the hat is supposed to be. So if this looks right, then you're knitting on the outside. But if you look down and you see this, you're obviously not working on the outside of the work. So make sure that you pick the needle where when you look down, you're seeing the outside of the gnome. So we've knit where we've picked up, and now we get to work around and actually join this color and enjoy adding step 1 of the body. I hope that helped. I wish you very happy body knitting, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.